Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Steve Kinney. I'm an engineer and a producer, and recently I've made the switch to Universal Audio's Luna. Really happy about it, really excited about making all my projects in this new platform. It sounds amazing, but I know there is a lot of mystery around it, and some of the shortcuts and some of the workflow is a little bit different than what you're used to. So I thought I'd throw together a series of quick 10 tips to get your project up and running smoothly and quickly inside of Luna. For those of you who are new to the channel, please check out my Console Classic Sessions pack. It's available now. It's the quickest way to get awesome starting points for your productions. You get great sounds just with a click of a button, and it's an awesome starting point to learn some traditional signal paths that were used in all pro studios around the world. So definitely check those out, and if you don't want to pick up the Sessions pack, check out my new Studio merch. Just came out, and it really helps me make videos like this for you guys. Of course, it does take some time to kind of prepare these, so if you guys would at least like, subscribe, leave a comment below, let me know what you think of Luna, and let me know how you're enjoying that. And also, if you pick up anything, I greatly appreciate the support. So with that said, let's dive right into it, and let's get started. All right, so the first tip on the list is creating a new track. Now, of course, they make it easy. You can just hit the plus button in the top left-hand corner, but sometimes I like to work quickly, so I like to add new tracks via shortcuts. And the first shortcut is going to be Command-Shift-N for a new audio track, or Command-Shift-I for an instrument track. But we're going to create a new track here. Let's just call it this a scratch recording track. I'm not going to record any sound with it, but just going to kind of take us through some of these shortcuts here. So we're going to load this up, and I'm just going to reorder this right there. All right, cool. Now I'm also going to give this a new color just so we know it stands out. Let's go red. And so that's that, right? That's super simple. Command-Shift-N for a new track, rename it, return key, you're moving along. Super easy to do. All right, the second tip is just navigating back and forth between the mixer and the main window here. So Command equals, you press that, and you're just hot swapping between the two views. I love doing that. It really speeds up my workflow. I know in Logic I used to hit X all the time. It'd bring up the mixer, but and of course you can always create new windows and create new views. If you have multiple screens, you can do all that kind of cool stuff too. But for me, I think that this is a really simple, easy solution. Just Command equals, and there you go. And then of course you still have the ability to, you know, do VCA spill and stuff like that if you want to get into that. But simple, super easy to do. Command equals. You're going to be navigating really quickly like that. So super cool. Next feature on here that's really important to talk about, right, is arming the track for both monitoring and record enabling the track. So what you would do is super easy to do. Shift-T turns on the input monitoring. Shift-R enables record input for the selected track or the selected tracks that you have. And then if you want to record on the fly, a lot of people don't know this. If you don't have the little number pad, there's a shortcut there. But if you don't have that, there's another way to do it, which is function, command, and space at the same time. I really like this method. But I could actually go ahead. I'm going to turn the volume down a little bit and hit play. Right, so if I want to start recording, hold function down, hit command, space, and you can see I'm now tracking, which is pretty cool if you're doing a punch or, you know, something similar like that. So, and of course, I stop it, and there we go. Super easy. Now, for me, whenever I build my projects, I love to be super organized about how I label my projects, color coding, and also having markers so I can zoom around sessions really quickly. They make creating markers in this a whole lot easier than I've ever experienced in Logic or in Pro Tools. Pro Tools probably, it's pretty easy in there. And it's easy in Logic, but the program in Logic is terrible. You try to load a marker, you get a billion other things that pop up with it too. So right here, what you would do is just go to the start of your project, or wherever you want to start your project, wherever you want to start your marker, and just press function return. and that'll bring up the little marker display, and you type what you want to type in for your marker. I'm saying that this is opening, this is the opening of the song. I'm giving it a color, and then I can go ahead and just press the return key again, and you can see that it now adds the marker there. So now you can also press the return key and function at the same time on the fly as well. So if you're listening and you just wanted to have something as you're going, you put your markers there. That's cool. If you want it on the grid, just make sure you go to the area that you want it on the grid and press the function return key. So if you're listening to the song, right, and as your part's coming up, you're like, okay, so that's where I need it right there, right? So I'd pause it, and I'd go to that spot, just press function return, name it verse 1, change the color, enter, boom, that easy. Same thing down here. Sometimes you can just kind of see it in your waveforms, right? So I know that at this downbeat, I want another marker right there, shift enter, let's say pre-chorus. Change the color again, enter. Super easy to do. Since I switched to Luna, I've noticed that little tiny workflows like this are a breeze and way faster than it's ever been in any other program that I've used, and that's why I've made the switch over to this. So that's a really cool tip right there. The next one's another one, another really simple thing, zooming in. So if you want to zoom in, you press T. And if you want to zoom out, you press R. And then also, if you want to make the track really large, you want to make this the focus of what you're doing. Let's say I want to zoom in on this bass track, right? If I press E zooms it in really big, and then I can press T to zoom in even further. Really easy, super cool. Love using this on vocals if I'm doing any sort of edit. And then you just press E and it takes you right back. If I want to go back to that mixer again, right? Command equals, there we go. I'm telling you, it's crazy fast when you get these down. The next tip is not so much of a shortcut, but it is something that I want to talk about, which is creating cue mixes. Now, if you're like me, you have a rack Apollo, or if you have any of the other Apollos, if you have like an Apollo Solo or something like that, right? You're not going to have a whole lot of different headphone outputs, but you can still create cue mixes. So if you want to have the click track just go into the headphones but not have it coming through the monitors, say you're in a control room, you know, if you're in that situation, I want to show you how you can do that. So what you want to do is make sure that you're in this record workflow, and then you see a new menu pops up right at the top here, and what you do is you hit click to cue. And then you can send the click track to the cue. So what you can do is change the volume on it. You can turn it on or off, right? Or you can put it through the monitors. You're playing now. Or you can turn it back off. So super easy on that front. And then of course, when you're building your cues as well, you can go through here, and what you can do is go sends on faders right here on the little side in the mixer. So that makes it almost like you can just rebuild whatever mix that you're working on, right? So you can send a bit of the drums, you can send a bit of the bass, you can send a little bit of this piano, but maybe the singer or the artist or the guitar player, maybe they want less of that, right? This is exactly where you do that. You go there, you build the mix that you want. Awesome. That's cue mixes. And they're pretty powerful. It's really cool. You can do some clever stuff with copying and, you know, building the sends that way, but that's a little bit more complex, so I'm going to leave that for another time. But that's cue mixes. So the next thing that I want to talk about on this is copying plugins. Which is pretty cool. So I've got 2 instances of these Neve 1081s on these guitar tracks, but say I want to have them go to all the guitar tracks that I have here. So what I could do is go into this little copy mode, and all I would just do is just drag it over to wherever I want. So I've just clicked once, I've dragged across all 3 of those tracks, and now I've released, And then what you do is you just click paste, and there you go. It was that easy. That's really useful, especially if you have a bunch of tracks with, say you might have like drums, or say you want to have a bunch of SSL channels across everything. Super easy, super cool. Then of course you've got the other modifiers. So you've got the remove. If you don't want to do that, you can also just click and swipe to drag. That's a modern feature. You're used to that in your cell phones, your swiping actions and stuff like that. That's a great feature, great feature. And again, that's not so much of a tip as it is just a really cool feature that I wanted to make sure that you guys knew about. Let's go on to the next one. All right, so this next one's for all you gearheads out there like me, where you have a patch bay and you have some outboard gear that you want to incorporate. So let's just go ahead and let's send the pad and the piano. Let's send that out to like something like this warm audio bus. How would we do that, right? Bus comp. Well, first thing that you'd have to do is give it an output, and then you'd have to add a new audio track and use that input that you send it back to. Now, in a program like Logic, right? Logic, you'd have Logic IO, which is a plugin that'd load in line with whatever source that you're using. But currently, as it stands in the current build of Luna, you have to do it more like a traditional analog console workflow, where you're sending it to a new fader and you're printing it that way. So pretty easy to do. So let's go ahead and demonstrate this. So what I do is I would take this and send this out. For example, we'd choose what one we want to send it from. So for right now, actually I have something patched up right now. So let's see where we're coming in from. So we're going to come out of 3 and 4. And then our returns are 5 and 6. So what we need to do is make sure that we take these pads and send them out. So we've got them sending from outputs lines 1 and 2 for both of these, which means wherever the return is coming from on the warm audio, I've got that routed to 5 and 6. So lines 5 and 6 are now my input. What you're going to want to make sure that you do is you have your input monitoring on. I've seen where you don't need it on. That's a different method, and I won't get into that right now. This is just a very simple, quick, easy way to do it, and I just want to demonstrate that it can be done. So the next pro tip is going to be talking about bouncing your tracks down into WAV. So say you're working with a track that has a bunch of plugins on it and you want that bounced to WAV. Alternatively, you could be in the scenario where you're patch mixing and you need to bounce that to WAV as well. Maybe it's on a master bus, or maybe you just have something on a channel and you need to mix that down into a WAV file for export somewhere else. So how would you do that? Well, currently our pad and our piano are coming into 5 and 6, which we just demonstrated in the last tip. So what we would do for this scenario is just go back to this, just go back to the start, and we would just hit the record button, right? And we would want to toggle record, and then we would just command function space play. So that's how you do it in a situation where you're using real hardware. What about if you were using a bunch of plugins and you needed to free up DSP allocation? Well, one way that you could do it is very similar. You would add a new track and you would send the outputs to a virtual track. So let's demonstrate that. So what we're going to do is we're going to add another new track. And this one is going to be virtual track scratch. That's just what I'm going to call it. Whoops. Let's undo that and do that again because I made that a mono. We need a stereo here. All right, cool. And so you see on my focused window here, we're going to choose, let's see, where is this? Oh, I got to go into my settings and turn on virtual tracks. Here we go, virtual channels 2. All right, we'll go back to our session. And so now this should show up. So we got virtual 1 and 2 as our input on this virtual scratch track. We're also going to change the color of this one again. Just all our scratch tracks, make them red, make them really stand out. All right. So now what we need to do is, let's say on this pad, right? Let's go back to the mixer and let's add some cool effects on here, right? Let's add a, what should we add? Let's add a pull tech, right? So we got this pull tech on here. We've got our little settings. We want to boost, we want to attenuate, do all sorts of cool stuff. All right, cool. And now I also want to add, let's add something weird on it, right? Let's add this V76 pre, and let's just slam it. Let's gain it way up. Cool, so it's starting to sound a little distorted there. Sounds cool. Now what we need to do is send this out to the virtual channel, which is going to be virtual 1 and 2. And let's turn off everything else. And let's just input monitor virtual channel 2. See, it comes through my channel there. Super cool. And then it becomes just like the last technique where we just press R and then it just records it all the way through. Pretty straightforward there. So let's reset these. Let's reset both of these back to the main. So there, we're back to our main output here. We're going to mute this one and this one. We're also going to hide them. To hide them, you want to just click there. Okay, cool. So we've got our standard setup. And also, let's remove these plugins. There we go. So now this next one is a very controversial topic in the Luna community, which is comping, right? I think comping is going to be a really cool, easy process in the near future. And as of right now, it's actually not all too complicated. You just have to understand it. So to do a comp, you have to utilize a track version. And to do that, you'll see up in this main view, you'll see right here, there's a button, you click it, and it'll open up your versions tab. And so what I can do now is add a new version on the scratch recording. Let's go ahead and enable our monitoring, enable it to be record enabled, and let's go ahead and do a pass. All right, cool. So I've got my pass now. Again, I haven't actually recorded anything on here, but this is just kind of demonstrating how you'd go about doing this. I now have 2 different takes. I've got version 1, I've got version 2. Yeah, so to create the final comp out of our 2 versions that we have, what we would need to do is create one final new version. And there's a keyboard shortcut for that. You hit Control and then the backslash. You can see it has our new version listed there in our scratch recording. And what we would now want to do is cycle through, you'd listen back to which one you like. And then what you would do is you'd highlight and copy and then paste it onto that track. So for example, let's go ahead and cycle through our versions. And to do this, there's an easy keyboard shortcut for this as well, which is just Shift up and down. So if you look at this track that I'm selected on, if I hold Shift and press down, now you get this version 2 pops up, but now we're back to version 1. So let's say that I want some of version 1 and some of version 2. Well, what I would do is I would simply highlight what I want from version 1. I'd copy, which is C, and then I would move up to version 3 and V. You don't need to do command on Luna, you just press V or C. There you go, there's that. So let's go back down to version 2 and let's select the part that I want from that. C, move up, V. All right, so there it is. That is how you do comping. I know in the future that Universal Audio is probably going to have a very clever way of doing comping. They might do something similar to something like Logic, or they might do something totally different. But for now, that is the way that it is. And the thing that I like about it is that it really forces me to listen with my ears on which take is the best take. The thing that I don't like about it is that there's no visual representation, and I kind of have to go through a few clunky keyboard commands, but the more that I do it, the better that I get at it, and ultimately it's only made me better with my ears. So thanks. So I know that I have done at least 11 tips. I think I've got maybe one more bonus tip in there, and that's the escape key. Sometimes I find myself hitting spacebar to try to have the song play, and I'm stuck. I'm like, what the heck's going on? But that's not playing because my cursor is still stuck while I was previously searching for something like an input or like a plugin. So always remember the escape key. That'll make your sessions run pretty smooth. You escape out of whatever you're doing, and that'll be cool. The final and last thing I will leave you with here is searching for plugins. I love that. I think that that's really cool. I know that that's not really a pro tip, but it is something to know that this program does that others don't. You know, I want to add a plugin, and you've seen me do it throughout this episode, but I'll search for something like a pull tech, right? Super quick. I can find whatever I'm looking for. I love that. So that's pro tip. Make sure you do it that way. Type in for whatever you're looking for. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I really hope that you've gotten to know Luna a bit better and that you feel more confident jumping into there and tracking, because I'll tell you, it sounds amazing and you're not gonna wanna be left out of the great migration. I know a lot of producers are gonna be going the route of Luna. So definitely keep playing around with it. Again, I appreciate you guys watching, and I really appreciate the support. Go check out my Console Classic Sessions pack. It's available now. And check out my new Stuido merch. I've got shirts, I've got coffee mugs. I'll have a ton of other stuff there as well. I really appreciate the support, guys. Leave a comment below on the next video on Luna that you'd like to see. All right, thanks so much for watching.